Yo, what is up guys? Del Boy here, aka Blue Collar Sports TV. Hopefully you guys are doing well. If you're new here, smash that subscribe button, hit the like, all of that good stuff. Recording this one really bloody early. Didn't sleep last night, got a couple of hours to spare before I start work, so why not record a video, right? May not be my most coherent as I'm very tired, but we'll go for it. Jose Ramirez versus Viktor Postol, my prediction. Obviously, this fight is for Jose Ramirez's WBC and WBO super lightweight titles. Viktor Postol is the WBC mandatory. I've got to say, I think this is a fairly solid fight, a pretty good title defense for Jose Ramirez. I still see Viktor Postol as a top 10 guy in that weight class. So in my opinion, this is a pretty solid title defense. Anyway, let's get to the tail of the tapes and whatnot. We shall start with the champion Jose Ramirez. He has a record, a perfect record, of 25-0 with 17 knockouts. Viktor Postol has a record of 31 wins, 2 defeats, 0 draws. 12 of those wins coming by way of knockout. Jose Ramirez is listed as 5'10" with a 72.5-inch reach, whereas Viktor Postol is listed as 5'11" with a 73.5-inch reach. So Postol is the taller, longer guy, and you would imagine he'll try and play into that in this fight with his style. Jose Ramirez, 28 years old, arguably in the prime of his career. Viktor Postol, 36 years old, maybe on the downslide, but the guy's very experienced. Both of these guys are orthodox fighters. So we've run through the tail of the tapes. Like I said earlier, I actually think this is a pretty solid fight. In fact, in regards to Jose Ramirez, could you argue this is his best opponent to date? I mean, would Postol beat everybody on Ramirez's resume? I mean, if you look at Ramirez's best wins, you would look at guys like Jose Zepeda and Maurice Hooker. Could Postol beat those guys? I think so. I think you could argue this is Ramirez's toughest test to date, and this is the fight that really stands in between Ramirez and that undisputed fight against Josh Taylor. Josh Taylor, of course, has his own mandatory challenger to deal with as well. Ultimately, what I'm trying to say is Postol is a very live dog in this fight, and he'll certainly be competitive. Anyway, in regards to the stylistic clash, I think this is going to be the case of the pressure fighter versus the boxer. Jose Ramirez, don't get me wrong, the guy can box a bit, but his MO really is to come forwards, crowd you, and drown you in a sea of punches, you know. The guy comes forwards, he's got good punch output, and yeah, he really makes you work really, really hard. That's his style. You know, we saw that against Maurice Hooker, when he kind of dragged Maurice Hooker into a dogfight. Maurice Hooker got knocked out, and yeah, that's really his style. Whereas Postol, as we know, I think he's best when he's on the outside, you know, picking you off with that jab, following through with his straight right hand, and even if you get up close, he's got a really nifty uppercut at mid-range. We saw him knock out Selçuk Aydin with that same shot. So Postol is a good technical boxer from the outside. He can also mix it up at mid-range as well, and he can even fight on the inside to a certain degree. While that's not his strength, he can do it to a decent standard. We actually saw that in his defeat to Josh Taylor at times. He wasn't necessarily matching Josh Taylor on the inside, but he was getting his own work done and he was landing some good shots. So Postol, you know, he's a pretty versatile fighter. He's pretty well versed in all areas of boxing, but his strengths lie on the outside, as you would expect for a guy of 5'11" with a 73.5-inch reach. Ultimately, this fight comes down to who imposes their style on the other, and if we look at where both guys are at in their careers, Ramirez in his prime, Postol arguably on the downslide, I favour Ramirez to really kind of dictate the pace of this fight, to be honest with you. I think his youth and hunger will be a big factor in this bout, to be honest. You know, so long as he fights his own style, his own game, then I make him a favourite in this one, and a fair favourite at that. You know, I see Viktor Postol as a guy who on the inside can be outworked, as we saw against Josh Taylor. You've got to be wary of what's coming back with Postol, because the guy is kind of sneaky, again, particularly with that uppercut, but Ramirez on the inside just has a better work rate. He's got better punch variety on the inside as well, and yeah, I expect him to have success if he gets there. Obviously, you know, that jab of Postol may be a problem. So one of the keys for Jose Ramirez is taking that jab away from Viktor Postol. You know, use a bit of head movement, slip the jab, and come up through the middle with body shots, uppercuts, and basically just work Viktor Postol on the inside. Make him feel like 36 years old. You know, make him fight a really high volume, high octane fight. Make him feel his age. I think Ramirez has the style to do that. I think he's got the ability to do that. The only problem really is Viktor Postol's jab. Sometimes Ramirez, I wouldn't say he's upright, but he kind of comes forward in straight lines at times. So he does need to alter that with a bit of head movement. You know, try and come in at angles. Don't follow Postol in straight lines. You know, try and up your pressure game in this fight. Ramirez, when he's on the inside, works very hard. That's great. He's actually got quite quick feet as well, coming forwards, applying pressure. He just needs to, you know, get to that next level of pressure fighting. You know, learn to cut the ring off more effectively. Don't follow your man in straight lines. You know, take a step to each side and, use a bit of head movement to come in, slip the jab, and then work. Postol, obviously, in my opinion, needs to keep it on the outside. That's easier said than done against a young, hungry opponent like Ramirez. So in my opinion, Postol needs to establish that jab very early on, you know, from the first bell basically. And also, I actually think he needs to catch Ramirez with something half decent to actually make this guy realise there's something coming back here. While Postol, he's not the biggest puncher, but the guy can certainly hit, you know. We've seen him stop Lucas Matisse. If you go back and watch his fight with Selçuk Aydin, who was a bit of a contender back in the day, you know, he knocked him out cold. He hurt Josh Taylor a couple of times. You know, when he actually sets his feet, he can actually punch a bit. Again, he's not super heavy-handed, but if he catches you, you'll know about it. So Postol needs to establish that jab early and then try and hurt Ramirez early as well. Again, we go back to the uppercut. I think that is arguably Postol's best shot at hurting Ramirez. Ramirez, you know, he comes forwards, like I said, with very little head movement, and his head doesn't really come off centre line. And his head actually comes forwards almost beyond his front foot. When you've got a guy like that, he's open for the uppercut. So Viktor Postol needs to look out for that shot. It could present itself in this fight. And if he lands it, you know, it's a snappy shot. Maybe he could hurt Ramirez. So yeah, Postol needs to do what he does, basically. Box, but also in this fight, you know, sticking and moving is not going to be enough. He will have to take chances at times and use his initiative, you know, try and force his authority on this fight at stages. You can't just stick and move all fight long, because I don't think he'll keep Ramirez at bay when he does that. So, yeah, he needs to box, but at times, you know, set your feet and try and land a few hard shots here and there to keep Ramirez honest. But ultimately, when you look at both guys, you've got to favour the younger, fresher, maybe stronger man in Jose Ramirez. So while I think this is going to be a very hard fight for Ramirez, I'm picking him to win this one. The way I see it is a points decision for Ramirez, more than likely a unanimous decision. Pretty competitive, but pretty clear. I think this is a pretty good fight for Ramirez at this stage, and obviously for Postol, it's really his last chance saloon, you know. If he loses this fight, you can't really see him fighting for a world title again. So, a lot at stake here. Ramirez has a potential undisputed fight at stake here, and Postol arguably has his career at stake. So, yeah, a lot on the line here. I like the fight. I think it's pretty competitive, but I am picking Ramirez to win, and I think it'll be on points. But a pretty good fight, like I said. Anyway, you guys below, share your comments. Tell me how you feel about this fight. Who are you picking to win? How's it going to go down? Are you going with the favourite, Jose Ramirez? Or are you going for the upset in Viktor Postol? Share your thoughts below. Peace.